Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Matt Drago. Matt, first and foremost, how do you pronounce your last name?
Drago. I'm the Italian version, but Rocky Four is probably how most people know my last name. That's Drago. That's the Russian pronunciation, but I'm Drago.
Oh, it's Drago. Okay, let me continue. Matt Drago, an actor whose journey in the world of storytelling is as inspiring as it is insightful. Matt grew up in Virginia, discovered his passion for acting early, and followed it to New York City for college before making the leap to Los Angeles. He's carved out a diverse and dynamic career in film, television, and audio drama. You might recognize Matt from his role as Fabian in Somewhere in Montana, a film where he stars opposite Graham McTavish and Michelle Hurd. Now, he brings to life the complex role of a West Coast director in conflict with a Montana rancher. Montana is beautiful, by the way. So today he'll share behind the scenes stories from the set, what it was like working with his talented co stars, and the unique challenges of playing this character. Now, beyond Somewhere in Montana, Matt has worked on projects like Disney's viral video Counting Scars, What Would Jesus Do? The Journey Continues, and Ridley Scott's Prophets of Science Fiction. He also lends his voice to the audio drama podcast No Other Way and runs his own production company, which is currently developing its first feature film. Matt's journey is a testament to the importance of perseverance and passion in building your dream and as an actor. Now, from navigating the actor director relationship to preparing for roles, he's learned a lot along the way. He's a proud member of the SAG AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists and Actors Equity. He'll get into more of that later on. We'll explore his theater background, the education that shaped his craft, and the personal stories that define his career. So let's dive into a conversation with Matt and hear more about the artistry. Acting is an art. Not most of us have it. And let's hear also the process and the lessons from his journey. Matt, welcome to the show.
Chris, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a blast.
So first off, on the first question, what actually inspired you to pursue acting, and how did growing up in Virginia actually shaped your journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like I had it in me from the moment I arrived on this planet. I just loved telling great stories, and it wasn't until I started to get on stage in Virginia, because there wasn't a lot of TV and film available at the time, where I explored the power that existed in telling stories and how it impacted people. I started in the local community theaters. Age 4 was my first show, first time that I was on stage. And it just kind of continued on from there to some of my first paid gigs. I did dinner theater, which was very popular in Virginia at Riverside Dinner Theater in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I played Mowgli in the Jungle Book, Hansel and Gretel, Little Patrick and Mame. And it really just sparked, just kind of the humility and love for it. In dinner theater, you're getting on stage and serving tables. It's a humble practice, and one that I took a lot out of it because of the conversations I'd have with people afterwards. I just remember Little Maine, for example. There was a woman that came to me and said, "Your role in Little Patrick tonight made me think that I need to put more effort into being closer to my son." When she told me that, and this is a woman in her 70s reflecting on a show we had done for a few hours on stage, I realized the immense power in film, television, theater, art, and storytelling. And it just perpetuated me to take my next step, which was to move back to where my parents were originally from in New York City. I was lucky. I got to live with my grandma for a few years and really just take in the city. But really living with my grandma kind of gave me the ability to come home every night in a complex city. So it gave me the ability to really hone my craft. I did that both in college at Marymount Manhattan College with some great acting teachers like Kevin Connell, who nurtured me, as well as out of college, Terry Schreiber, who was actually Edward Norton's coach and became like a grandfather to me, and just kind of gave me a bunch of different ways to see acting and a lot of methodology that just kind of gave me the ability to explore what my own process was. And I think that's a big part of being an actor, is actually discovering what your process is that uniquely makes you tick and uniquely makes you connect to a character. And then I met a girl, Chris. I met
Mm,
a girl in an acting class and realized that she grew up 3 blocks away from me in that small Virginia town that we were both from. And just because we had divorced parents, like we went to different schools in different towns far away. But I remember we were actually paired in a breakup scene from Say Anything. I was pulling out the call list and I saw that she had a 540 area code and I said, "Where in Virginia are you from?" And she said, "Front Royal." I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "Front Royal, have you heard of it?" And I said, "I'm from Front Royal." And she said, "Are you kidding me?" And I was like, "No, I seriously, like my dad's the sensei, the karate school right across from the Main Street Cinema, and I know this person and I know this person. Well, what about your family?" Well, she said, "My family owns the Apple House, which is a small little country store off the interstate that only someone would know." I said, "Look at my dresser." And my dresser literally had 3 things at 79th and Broadway in my grandma's apartment that had the price tags on them from the Apple House. I said, "Well, we've already gotten the breakup out of the way. Are you ready to go out on a date?" And my girlfriend then, now my wife, we're just kind of re-engaging this journey. We came to LA a few years ago and starting a production company. Her maiden name is Hunter, so Drago and Hunter makes Dragon Hunter Productions,
okay.
and that's where I'm at right now.
Wow, that sounds like such deep destiny. Talking about Sleepless in Seattle. You hear these stories in movies and theater, but when you actually sit with someone who talk about how their actual life and the relationship that they encounter along the way, it's a beautiful story. I was actually looking at your story. I'm 50 years old, half a century on this planet, but I've so much accomplishment from you. I haven't even brushed the surface. Can you share a memorable moment or challenge from working on Somewhere in Montana with actors Graham McTavish and Michelle Hurd?
Absolutely. First of all, I don't have kids. I think Laura and I have actually dedicated a lot of that energy. I could say that I do have a kid. I have a dog. Her name's Buffy. She is like a kid to me. I think a lot of our energy has gone into this production company and building some of these films as if they were
Oh,
our children, our legacy piece, so to speak, in the world. As it comes to working with pros like Graham and Michelle, what a gift in my life. I say this all the time that just being around pros like that really is the gift, and the relationships that I got out of this film, they are so much of why I'm so proud to be part of this film and why I feel like I've already won in being a part of it. Graham very quickly brought me into a friendship, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. We actually have a really cool story. Both Graham and Michelle and I all have a weird story in how we met. I was actually picking up a little bit of a cold the first week I was on set because I was there before Graham. I went to the local Walgreens and our producer, Eden Matson, was picking him up from the airport. He wanted to make one stop at the local Walgreens, and we happened to be there at the same time. I met him and could tell right away that it was going to be a true honor in my life to tell a story with him. He was so engaging, just such a wonderful soul right off the bat. I could tell we were going to hit it off, even though our energies were different, which was kind of the beauty of it. Our energies are very different in the film as well. But you want to talk about a collaborator? I mean, him, Michelle, the same way, just such a lover of actors. I actually saw her at the hotel getting into the elevator and I just started talking to her right away and we just hit it off. We're both got the New York background. She's a New Yorker. Hit it off right away too. And just such a lover of actors. I think you realize sometimes when you have these durations in your careers, it's because of that selfless energy that you give off to people. It's because of that camaraderie. It's because you always are collaborating with people and engaging with them and really bringing a lot of joy to their process as well. I honestly can't say enough great things about the two of them specifically because they've been doing it for so long. For someone that's an up and coming or unknown actor at this point in my career, to have people like that I can call friends now is part of the journey in this film that I'll always be grateful for.
I loved Michelle Hurd's character in Blind Spot. I don't know why people only seem to remember her in SVU, but those are some of the things. We have so many actors. They've been doing so many roles, and people tend to forget some of the most memorable one. But that one actually stood out for me. Her role in Blind Spot, which is a very good series, by the way.
Mhm.
But the thing is, what's the dynamic like between actor and the director, actually both on and offset? Would you like to get a little bit more into that?
I would love to. It is such an intimate relationship. I see first and foremost why actors and directors work together
Mhm.
on multiple projects because I think the conversations get shorter. You almost know what to expect from the actor, and you know what to expect from the director. The ecosystem that Brandon Smith created as the writer and director of Somewhere in Montana was absolutely extraordinary. I can't say enough good things about him and just what he was able to create, the freedom of expression that we all had, and bringing the whole family together. The crew and the cast were completely interchangeable in this one. It's such a small crew that we got to know everybody. We'd go out to dinners together, we'd go on hikes together. So we really couldn't get enough of each other. And that was something that I give Brandon full credit for because he made that happen just in the types of people that he brought into the world of Somewhere in Montana. I go back to the beginning all the time with Brandon because it was a special time for me and a unique experience in building the characters. We would get on Zooms just like we're on right now, and we would go scene by scene. A lot of the work I was doing, in terms of my process as an actor, I'm very backstory driven. I like to think about what the behavior of the character is and how I can bring that to life. But he also gave me the ability to collaborate with him because he was the one that was originally putting these words on the page and building this character. So it was nice to pick his brain too because he wrote both characters as markers of himself in his own life as both someone that's from Montana now and someone that's a director. So there was a little bit of that too, where it was this ultimate collaboration of just going scene by scene and understanding what he needed. Because a good actor director relationship is being the actor that's like, how can I serve this role? How can I do justice to this role? How can I bring all of my work to this character in a way that makes you proud, right? Because this is your film. And I truly mean that. And when you get to a place in your career where you have someone like Brandon that's willing to give you that space to be able to collaborate like that, there's nothing better in the world.
Yes, thank you for that explanation, which leads me to the next statement I want to make because I actually admire an actor's ability to switch and immerse themselves into the roles they play. And, the big names out there like DiCaprio, the Jim Carrey, the Johnny Depp, they're able to transition from one script, from one character to the next. Even yourself, you mentioned earlier how many different plays you were involved in even at an earlier age. So the experience actually come with the amount of roles that you play. So I can actually put it with say for instance, if you're into sports, I always would
Very
use,
into
yeah.
sports.
If I'll use wrestling for one of them, WWE, those you have people who they're the baby face and then they become the eel and then they become the baby face again. So the dynamic of that itself, you have to give people credit for how they can actually deliver and personify that character itself. But can you share the secret of how one would actually recuse themselves, take away from themselves from those characters? How do you get out from being that person on script back to Matt Drago?
That's a great question. I think it really depends on the character a lot of times, but for Fabian, he was a hard character to release because I felt like he was the first character I ever truly fell in love with. And I mean that. Like, I just really understood him. I also understood that there's a lot of Fabian that is me. I got to bring a lot of myself to this character in ways that you don't necessarily always get to within some characters that maybe are a lot different from you, but you try to find those connection points wherever you can because it's act what you know, right? It's the same as a writer. It's like write what you know. So for me, I released him. The way that I did it was actually really cool. My cast and crew, the day that we wrapped was my birthday on July 1st. And
Oh,
we all dove into a Flathead Lake together. It's a cold lake, Chris. When I was diving into the lake, I felt like I had done my job. I had fulfilled what I needed to. When I wrapped the day before, I told the cast and the crew while tearing up that I just really wanted to make sure that I did the film proud. This specific process in Montana was very unique in that I was also learning about Montana. I'd never spent that much time there. I told them that a lot of the character I had developed was really just all the energy that I'd felt from my cast and crewmates offset that I was able to put right back into the film. It was a very extraordinary experience in that way. But then the second part happened, which was really special for me. I told Brandon, Eden, and Joe, the producers and director, that I feel like Fabian still lives on in me. Much like Fabian fighting
yeah.
for his dream of creating a few good stories that matter, I feel like now I'm doing the same with my production company. Is that my real through line for my production company and my wife is to bring stories
Mhm.
to little pockets of the country that feel like they don't have a voice. And so it was one of those things with Fabian that he left such a big mark on me that I didn't want to completely disengage from him. I wanted the parts of him that I felt could help me on the character to still be a part of me and my journey. And I feel like they continue to empower me because I learned a lot about myself in the role. And it was a big marker in my life as not just an actor, but an artist and a collaborator. A lot of that was because of the relationships that existed off screen. When I think about Fabian, I feel like I still carry him with me in some ways because of what he taught me and what that character taught me and what the process of being in this film gave me in my life.
Yeah, every moment is a teaching lesson. Can I quote Shakespeare? All the world's a stage. So those are some of the things you can go out there. You'll see a story and then try to mimic everything else. I firmly believe that the magic is in the script, and then you take away from some of those attributes that the script allow actors to get into a particular role, because those some of the words that actually come from the script, it resonates with a lot of people, and they will always, if you watch a movie, I firmly believe that if you watch a movie, there has to be a takeaway or a teaching moment. The question I can ask is, how did the theater background and your formal education contribute to the way you approach a role today?
Yeah, Chris, I honestly feel like theater is such a great starting point for a lot of actors because there's no training wheels, right? You're in front of live audiences and it's you feeling the energy. It's open world, meaning that there's not a specific shot where you have to be in frame. It's blocking, but it's a little bit more free, I would say, than film. Film is very technical though. So I think theater gave me the ability to express myself. It gave me the ability to act freely in that space. Again, in rural Virginia, I didn't actually have a lot of film and TV really around me at that time when I was growing up. It's actually becoming more so now that there are TV and film crews there shooting productions. But when I was growing up, there weren't. So theater was a medium that I could get into early. I also like to still sing. So, musical theater was a great medium for me as well. And it just kind of branched out. I think a lot of my path to LA was in part by Terry Schreiber, who I remember this really big moment in my life where he brought me into his office and I was really close to a few Broadway roles and I was kind of getting down on myself because being that close and not getting the opportunity to show what kind of actor you could be, because there's a lot of work that goes into being a Broadway ready actor. It's a lot of money too. At
Mm,
one point, I think I had a vocal coach, I had an audition coach,
wow.
I had a specialty coach that worked with different types of stylizations and things like that. So it was a lot of money. I took a lot of responsibility in making sure that I was ready, if I was getting a job, to be able to be on stage 8 times a week, which is incredibly hard. I was feeling a little bit down, and he brought me in and said, maybe you should give LA a shot because I've seen you in class. And again, this is him like telling me, like, if I leave New York, then I'm not going to be in his class anymore. But it's just a wonderful thing that he gave me to explore because he just cared about me so much. And at that time, Laura, my wife, let's pack the car. It was 10 degrees out in New York City. We drove across the country, hit some great spots, including the Grand Canyon. And we got to LA in early January around this time of year, and it was 85 degrees out. We felt like this might be home. Now, we've really enjoyed LA and film, the collaborative art that it is. It's kind of like a new skill set, right? Because it's
Mhm.
so much more technical. You have to get to the point where you do all of the hard work beforehand. I always say
Yeah.
actors should do all of their work in pre production. That way, when they come to set, they're prepared and they can really explore where the actual scene is going to take them. It's technically driven, but it's because of all the masters of craft that are around you. There's such a safety net in people like AJ Young, our cinematographer, and the gaffers and the sound design and all the people that come together to make something special. And you have that type of collaboration. It's just a wonderful world to be a part of.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Because to put it on the automotive perspective, is that you see cars driving every day on the road. We don't take into consideration the work it takes to actually keep it safe on the road. When it goes behind that back door at the dealership, the mechanic has to be trained for at least 4 to 5 years to know exactly what he's doing. We don't take the time to actually appreciate the people who are doing the work: actors, actresses, producers, directors, the sound system, the production crew. They're working in sync together to entertain us so that we forget the fears of the world and everything else around us. And it's a touching moment, sharing your story, and you made that leap of faith along with your wife as well, who is there to support you in your dreams. And she's also a part of it. More of these stories are needed to be had. And in order to share one personal experience, when I was growing up in Jamaica, I lived in a section of the country called, well, the name is Portmore in St. Catherine. And I would get up early in the morning, wake up at around 4:30 in the morning, and I will take a bus from there to Kingston, which is around 35-minute drive, a bus at around 5, 6 in the morning to get to the theater because we were going to watch a triple bill, we called it at the time. And you get there for the movies begin at 7 a.m. And when you get there at 7 a.m., believe it or not, before you even get to the theater, you get to Kingston, then you have to take another bus, which is around another 20, 25 minutes to get to the theater. And then when you get to the theater before 7 a.m. in the morning, there's a long line waiting for people
Wow.
going, yeah, getting into the theater just to see a triple bill, a matinee, Saturday morning, Sunday morning matinee. But that was the norm up until around the 1990s, early 2000. You still have to give respect and honor to the people who are actually doing the
Mhm.
films and putting them on screen. People will come once you have good movies. With the triple bill, you'll see a Clint Eastwood triple bill or a mixture of old movies. I've been watching movies for a very long time, but it's mostly action movies. Because people are not going to leave their home to watch drama. It was mostly action movies, like karate movies,
Sure.
kung fu, martial arts, Jackie Chan's, and the Chuck Norrises, and just to name the Bruce Lee movies. Being with someone inside the industry who can share their stories, you have to pay respect to those who are putting it on screen. What advice would you give someone trying to build their dream as an actor, especially in such a competitive industry right now?
Enjoy the journey. I know it sounds trivial to some, but really you have to enjoy every part of it. And you enjoy it more when you understand you can only control so much. It's like that in any industry, to be honest. What do I mean by enjoying the journey as an actor? Enjoying the experience of auditioning is a big thing for a lot of actors. If they can really dive into enjoying putting themselves uniquely on tape for that role and doing it just literally the way that they would do it, which is uniquely yours, right? You can only do the role the way that you can. And so you're bringing yourself to the role. Enjoying that part of it is crucial. And I can't stress that enough. What you do when you enjoy putting yourself on tape is you enjoy the process of acting. Hurd says it best. Every time I get an audition, she gets fired. It's my opportunity to put myself out there in the way that only I uniquely can. You can still see the joy it brings her, even after all these years, after all of these roles she's played, her incredible body of work. She really still gets excited every time she gets an audition. Same with her husband, Garrett Dillahunt. You can just see it. And they're just such lovers of actors that I feel like you have to take those types of people that you meet. And when they say things like that, you have to take it to heart. So I really do. I took that to heart with the many conversations that I've had with Michelle. So I would say, first and foremost, enjoy the journey, because when you put yourself on tape for a role, then comes the hardest part. You have to let it go. And you have to understand that you're putting good work out there. You care about what you're putting out there, but you also have to let it go so you can move on to the next. And I do believe that if you put good energy out there, I'll speak specifically to Somewhere in Montana. I'd read the script 3 times before I even
Mm.
put myself on tape for it. It's because I really just loved the story. I really loved the characters. I loved the 10-page scene that Brandon Smith wrote so eloquently about a lot of the societal issues that we're going through as a country right now in the United States. This is a film very early on that I was taken by. Before it was even a film, the script was
Mhm.
something that I was taken by. When I put myself on tape, I did one take of it. My acting teacher actually said, I wouldn't change a thing. You have a very clear take on this character. Because now you can put yourself on tape. You can do it 10, 20, 30 times if you want to. I only did one take, and my acting teacher
Mm.
said, you have a really firm grasp on what you want to do with this character. Could you make little tweaks here and there? Of course, but you uniquely know what you want to do with this character. So I would just send that in, because if you do it over and over again, you're just going to get into your head. This was from your heart. And so I said, okay. And I did. And then you have to do the thing as an actor where it's the waiting game, right? And a few weeks go by, and then, you hope to hear something. Maybe sometimes you do, maybe sometimes you don't. I did for this one. It was a producer session. I got to work with Eden, Jared Brocksterman, who is the casting director locally in Montana, and Brandon. I just remember that Zoom so vividly because we really just explored personally. I was just curious about the project, the script, the story. I was curious about the power of the story and why it needed to be told. Films like this are why I got into acting, because I wanted to tell stories, much like Fabian Verdugo, that resonated with people, conversation starters that were stories of the times, like this one. I just remember that Zoom so vividly, and that I ended up speaking with them probably for like 45 minutes, and we only
Mm.
ran the scene once. It was because they saw in me somebody that was really on board with it. And I think that's what it really speaks to when I think about giving advice to actors, is really just enjoying the journey. Part of it is really just enjoying the opportunity to get a couple good stories in front of you and put your mark on them. And whether, you're granted the role or not, if you do good work over and over again and you really enjoy the process and you show that you're a team player, I really do believe that that will come back to you in your life.
Words of wisdom, and hopefully it reaches the person who is actually listening and watching. And it's always good to share one's experience. We never know whose life it's going to impact positively along the way. I've watched the trailer at least twice. It doesn't give much. I must say that because you want to keep it as compact as possible. I'll be showing the trailer later on at the end of this podcast, so persons can go there and listen. I was looking to see if I could watch the movie, but it's not available in any theaters here in Toronto. So I'm gonna have to wait on the release. Will it be released on digital DVD?
Eventually, it will go to VOD and streaming, but right now, we are trying to do a limited theater release in the country,
Okay.
just so it can become like a conversation starter. Again, independent films, they're harder to get into theaters, and that's why getting on podcasts like yours today, Chris, is so important, because it's word of mouth. We started our journey in trying to get it into theaters, going to Rocky Mountain NATO, which is in Salt Lake City. NATO stands for National Association of Theater Owners. And so it was an opportunity to meet a lot of people that have owned theaters for many years. And it was very interesting because some people, like, it's their legacy is owning these theaters. I met one girl who owned a drive-in and it was her grandmother's theater. And she was like,
Hmm.
it's just so hard right now to get people to come to the theaters. But I think Brandon specifically, and I love him for it, is old school. He wants people to come to the theaters. He wants to force the conversation because when you're in your home, you get on your phone, you're kind of distracted. When you go to the theater, you're really paying attention, and this film
Yeah.
has a lot in it. And so we're hoping that because a lot of these theater owners own many theaters, these couple weeks that we're in now, because we're recording at the end of January, will perpetuate more theater openings. I will share them on my socials as the rollout continues, and then
Yeah.
when it comes to streaming and VOD, I'll share that as well on my socials.
Okay, definitely. Do we have time to the trailer right now? I think I can show it. How many times have you seen it? Let me see if I can bring it up right here. Here.
John Shimke edited an incredible trailer. It's really powerful.
Can you see it?
I can see it.
Okay. There we go. Let me hit play.
I don't forget. Every moment, every day. God, I miss that woman.
Where are we? Montana. This one location is holding up our entire shoot. Your ranch, it's such a nice fit.
I just don't trust this guy. This is a working ranch, Laney. It's not an amusement park.
If we can make this deal work out, then we can survive until next year.
Welcome to my ranch.
Let's get first team in here. First team.
Bob tells us they're making a movie out to your place.
Yeah, I guess everybody knows.
Holy cow, Barbs.
Cut! Mike, call a break.
Damn, everybody'd like to have your attention. It's time to freak out.
Where the hell do you get off interrupting my shoot? Where the hell do you get off
Dumbass.
punching my actors?
What the hell was that, Dad?
Just setting the tone.
There you have it. What's your well, without giving out any more secret, what is your take on it?
That really needs to be told where we're at right now as a society. I think we tend to not get to know people as well. I think we tend to not let people in and give them space. This film really dives deep into legacy and respecting other people's legacy and really seeing other people trying to get past that instant reaction of how we feel about people and canceling them. Finding that just word that always resonates with me because I feel like it's the highest form of love that you can give to another person. That's respect. If you
Yeah.
respect a person, it's hard to hate them. This journey and this film, like I said, I think it is something that I think can resonate with a lot of people that are struggling on how to communicate with someone that they might not see eye to eye with. Because again, these are two people from two different worlds that need to find a way to coexist. And isn't that where we're at right now? In our country, in America, and throughout the world. It also explores legacy and everybody's legacy. And that's what I love. I mean, Fabian, it's his film. John, it's his ranch. Legacies matter, people matter, and we need each other. And I think a through line that I found even when I was shooting there was there is more that can connect us than can ever divide us. And I truly believe that. This film that Brandon Smith created is a perfect example of the start of trying to find that conversation and have it with those people that you need to really just try to find that mutual respect again in this world with other people that maybe you don't see eye to eye with all the time.
Back in 2009, I got the opportunity to visit Toyota Motor Corporation's factory. At the time, I worked at a dealership, Toyota dealership. It was owned by Toyota Tsusho Corporation, which was the fifth largest trading company in the world at that time. And I was selected as one of the global ambassadors to go to Toyota Motor Corporation's factory in Nagoya, Japan, to see the Toyota production system, how the cars actually were built and they were made. And we spent around 3 years studying the Toyota way in sales and marketing. And Japan is a beautiful country. I've always wanted to go back there. Nice people, courteous to a fault. That's what we always say. And at that time, I learned about the 10-point principles of Toyota's automotive division. And some principles stood out. One was to greet everyone with enthusiasm. The another one I can remember is to make the most of everyone's strength. Um, we learn from our own and others' success and failures and continuously try to improve. Another one we can say is another one I can remember is take on new challenges and have an impeccable plan. The one that stood out the most was to learn from our predecessors and exceed our predecessors respectfully. And people who are actually acting, you see great actors in the past, and we try to emulate a lot of what they're doing to bring stories to life. And you just explained everything in terms of the production, the crew, and Brian, and all of what everyone tried to do is we have to try to find a way to share a common ground, especially in this world. And considering what is taking place, everything that affects the South, which is United States, it also affects us here in Canada. And somehow we need to find a common ground to thrive and make things work. I love the music and the background music in that trailer. Of course, it was very
So beautiful.
serene. And how do you actually deal with the criticism in terms of if they're going to come with a film? And why I ask this is that social media now has given everyone the right to an opinion. Some may see the film, some may not like it, some will love it. I remember listening to one of YouTube's highly watched movie critics, and he refers to actors as paid adult pretenders. May sound kind of harsh, but considering there are thousands of people out there trying to break through and make it even on a regular series, how would you respond to a comment like that?
I feel like every film and every show isn't for everyone, right? So you have
Yeah.
to do your work in the film series or even on stage, but understand that not everybody's going to resonate with it. I think there's always
Yeah.
a more productive way to do it. I think some people do it harshly, but I think if they're being overly harsh and negative and not critical in a productive way, like the movie reviews do, where they break down the things that worked and didn't, and they're looking at the structure of the film and performances within it and the different elements that make film great, whether it be the cinematography or lighting or sound. If you're just going to hate on it, then I think that's of a reflection on that person than on the film. Not every film is for every person. Luckily for us, we have gotten really great feedback on this film because a lot of people understand the importance of the film. And the people that were part of it, they really brought it. And it's an important story that needs to be told. Criticism exists in every industry, right? Like you just spoke of. I mean, like it's not anything different. Like we sometimes have to be critical to achieve better. And within this film, I hope that people will resonate with my performance. I gave Fabian the freedom to be big because I felt him big. I felt him honestly, but I felt him big. He's passionate, larger than life, and he's fighting for something. Haven't we all been there where we
Yeah.
fought for something and maybe we haven't been at our best all the time? I wanted to show him as somebody that really was passionate because he cared. When I have interviews with someone astute like you, I can explore that. It's not just about the performance that takes place over an hour and 45 minutes in the film. It's why I performed that character the way that I did and why I felt that character the way that I did and why I constructed that character the way that it did. So I think specifically for this film, it worked wonderfully because Graham is so subtle and powerfully subtle. And Montana Ranchers are that too. Our two energies just don't match in the beginning. It was a really interesting role for both of us because at the end, I think you can see that our energies match a little bit more, even if we don't agree with everything, because we're still different people. That's what Brandon writes really well in this script. At the end of this movie, we're not skipping off in the sunset together. We're still two uniquely different people. He writes us both as alpha males, which I really like. We're both protagonists and antagonists of each other within this film. And I think that's another great thing because aren't we kind of protagonists and sometimes antagonists within our own life, right? Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody should be granted some redemption in their life. And this is a redemption story. This is people not being at their best and working through that. So when I discuss the role in its totality, I understand why I made the choices. I feel proud of that. I feel proud of why I built the character the way I did because I know how much work and effort I put into it. If some people don't appreciate that role or felt like it could have been done differently, that's their opinion and that's okay. But I honestly feel like Brandon said it when we wrapped. He said, "You did exactly what I asked you to do." And that's all you can ever ask from your director. If you hear that, you've done your job. When you're on set as an actor, you are serving the production. You are a piece of that production. I feel very proud of the work I did in creating this character and bringing him to life in Somewhere in Montana.
Yep. All he did was make the most of everyone's strength, and something will actually come right through. With a fourth degree black belt, I'm going to put that out there. Matt has a black belt in karate. Do you find that martial arts influences your approach to acting or the discipline required in your career?
Absolutely. I grew up in a dojo. My father is my sensei. He's an eighth degree black belt. So I jokingly always say that I grew up like a Ninja Turtle. I have three other brothers. I'm Leonardo, by the way. My brother Marcus, Brainiac, perfect scores on his SATs. Obviously Donatello. Michael is Raphael, and my brother Richard. He, kind of just kind of does his own thing. He's like a free spirit, and that's
Yeah.
Michelangelo. Martial arts has been the ultimate practice for me in my life, and it's definitely influenced a lot of my acting. My father, Arthur, has given me the ability to enjoy the movement of karate. We are in an old school practice of Okinawan Shorin-ryu, and we actually got to study in Okinawa together. And these are like 80, 85-year-old, 90 grandmasters. And just very humble dojos that are built in the farmlands. These are people that were protecting themselves with farm tools, oars, sais, nunchucks, and bows. But yeah, karate and martial arts in my life has become a really important practice because it's given me the freedom to enjoy the movement. Our dojo is very prideful in the fact that we don't give out trophies. We don't ask kids to get into a ring and fight each other because that's not what martial arts is. It's a self practice. It's getting out on the dojo deck and doing those katas for yourself and doing them in the way that you uniquely can, right? And that's very much in the same vein as acting, doing the role uniquely how you can and enjoying the movement and in the practice of it. That's what karate has given me in my life and being a 4th-degree black belt in Okinawan Shorin-ryu.
Upcoming projects, are there anything we can look forward?
Absolutely. I mean, LA's kind of, going through a lot right now, and we've been through 3 strikes and one of the worst natural disasters in our history. Right now, I'm really focusing on my team as an actor. You build people around you that see your vision. I'm lucky to have an incredible agent at HRI Talent, Tanya Kleckner, who's pitching me for projects. I've got my manager, Richard John Martin at Ignite Talent Management, and my PR rep, Mia Hansen, who's given me a lot of time in the craft of putting myself out there like I am today on your podcast. I'm auditioning constantly. I actually had an audition right before this podcast today. In many ways, Montana taught me that in addition to acting, I love collaborating. And there's nobody better to collaborate with than someone you love. Collaborating with my wife and building out our production company is something that fuels me. It very much in the vein of how I take Fabian Verdugo with me in my life as Matt, and just try to, like I said, build stories in little pockets of the country that feel like they don't have a voice. Because I feel like sometimes a lot of the dissonance that happens in our societies happens when people feel voiceless. So films can help give a little bit of that voice back to them. Sometimes it takes a film production going to a small town like Polson, Montana, or Front Royal, Virginia to do that. So I'm really excited about my next chapter. I feel like I'm in the sweet spot of my career where I'm just really enjoying what's coming to me and just enjoying the pure joy that I have being in this remarkable film that I think has a really incredible message.
All right, definitely. And we look forward to it. Somewhere in Montana now, playing in selected theaters in the United States. I will wait on it here in Toronto on video on demand. And I wished I had the opportunity to watch it before I had you on the podcast, but unfortunately not. Matt, thank you very much for joining us. I look forward to watching that movie as soon as it comes out, and I will send you a message directly to share my thoughts on the performance, the film itself, and the supporting cast. We look forward to watching more movies from your production company. You mentioned earlier about individuals who owned cinemas, and they're looking forward to seeing people coming back into the theaters, because that was something that was very spontaneous back in the days. We were on our way home, we looked across, we see the lights, we see the name of a movie, then we just stop and we go in there and we spend another hour and a half. How can you get people to have that spontaneity again? How can we get people to have that interest to come back into the theater where you can just sit down and forget all your fears and worries? And that is the common ground we have to go back into the, because once the script is good, they will come. Once the actor is good, they will come. The production doesn't have to be top notch. They just want something that they can immerse themselves into, and hopefully we will learn everything from everyone today. Are there any final thoughts you would like to share with us?
Absolutely. And I'll just follow that up, Chris. Thank you for having me on your show. Film and art are the ultimate escape. They teach people to feel and connect with their humanity. And that's why I love acting so much. If you want to follow my journey, I can only do so many social media platforms, but I'm very active on Instagram. Follow me at Matt Drago, MattDrago. From there, I've got all of my link tree up. It's got my actor website, mattdrago.com, my production company website, dragonhunterproductions.com. It's also got my IMDb if you want to look at my projects, what I've got coming up. And yeah, I just share things from my life and share things for my acting career. So give me a follow there, and I'll keep you posted with all of the happenings in my life and my career. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.